All right, Ice. There's not really anything new here other than there's a report today that the ICE agent who shot Ms. Good last week has internal bleeding. Now, it's sketchy. More will come out on it, but it's been released. Now, that can only happen if the vehicle that Ms. Good was in hit him. But I'm not trying this on television. It's not right to do that. But you need to know what's surfacing here. So everybody took sides. I saw the video. I saw it's bull. If it ever gets into a courtroom, and it won't, then you'd go frame by frame, as I analyzed, and then you'd hear from the ICE agent and then witnesses, whatever. Okay. But I don't think any of that's going to happen. But if the man does have internal bleeding, that's pretty big. So that's the latest on that. Now, there's a website called Mediaite. Deals with a lot of press stuff. And it's a good website. You know, it used to tilt really far left, and they brought it back to left center. There's a guy who created it, along with a few others, Dan Abrams, Colby Hall. He writes a column, and the column's pretty good. Enough is enough. It's basically criticizing Donald Trump's overreach as president of the United States. I'll read you a portion here, and then we'll bring in Mr. Hall. Quote, what distinguishes the current moment is not the impulse to push boundaries, but the scale, speed, and brazenness with which these accumulated precedents are being exploited. Obama used drones and faced criticism, but operated within executive branch legal frameworks. Trump extracts foreign leaders and announces it as a fait accompli. At home, the same logic is playing out through federal law enforcement. ICE agents are defended reflexively before facts are known, before investigations are complete. Oversight is dismissed as obstruction. Questions are treated as attacks. Power is insulated first, examined later. Unquote. Colby Hall joins us now from Brooklyn. So the mindset of the President of the United States is that his opposition is so entrenched that they don't care about what's good for the country. And so he has to cut through that. So he can't go to Congress and say, I want to remove Maduro, and then Congress votes on it 5 months later because no Democrat will ever vote for anything that Trump wants. This is the president's mindset. Do you understand that?
I do. I think that's a generous description. And I'll say, first of all, thanks for having me on. Secondly, I agree with a lot of what you said during your talking points, right? I find that we're pretty much aligned on a lot of this stuff, especially the concern with sort of Denmark and Greenland, which is remarkably risky on a number of levels, not just politically. My column, Enough is Enough, was really about how under an executive branch that literally acts without impunity, or with impunity, with zero checks and balances, is acting in a way that really sort of reinforces might makes right, which is a philosophical construct that we long moved past, and it's not really democratic. And the actions of this president reveal a nation that increasingly doesn't look like the America that I grew up and I still love very, very much.
See, I don't have that. I don't have that perception, and I'm just about 25 miles from you in my dwelling. And when you say that Trump operates without any constraints, the courts rule that the president could not send National Guard to LA and a few other cities because he didn't reach the bar of impending chaos. So he took him out. Trump took the National Guard. He withdrew. So he's been constrained.
It wasn't constitutional. Posse comitatus basically says federal government cannot send in troops unless the governor of the state asks for it because of chaos.
And so that's what was ruled.
He's flouting the democracy, or he's flouting the Constitution.
But he's
that's
obeying.
A constitutional crisis.
He's not running roughshod. Well,
right.
Okay, but that's the way it always happens, Colby. Come on. You take an action and then there's a reaction. That's the way the government always runs.
Here's what I would say. You could defend the extraction of Maduro, the sort of way that was defined as we can do whatever we want with the Western Hemisphere because it affects our national security, and we're going to use that as a pretext to now threaten to, sort of bomb Iran and to then just sort of invade and take Greenland. Like you said, that really threatens and is very risky to our NATO alliance. To be clear, and I want to say this, I have given credit to the Trump administration where I feel like they've deserved it. And in particular, I think the way that the Trump administration has handled Iran vis-a-vis Israel was masterful and deserves a great deal of credit. I also give him an incredible amount of credit for the way that he cleaned up the abject horror that is the border. The worst thing that Biden ever did was just look away. And I think one can be for getting bad guys out, cleaning up the border, but also be opposed to masked ICE agents shooting protesters. And I don't think Renee Good should be dead as a result of trying to drive away or even taking the guy in the car.
I don't either.
Right.
But
I think
that doesn't mean that what the ICE agent did carries any criminal intent, because I have said, and you know this, de-escalate it when you have a life-death situation. And some of my viewers don't like that. They don't want to hear that. Okay, but every law enforcement agency that I know of has a de-escalation program when life and death is on the line. So I'm behind the law. But Trump is saying, and with absolute validity, I can't bring in Maduro to Congress. I can't bring in nuke bombing in Iran to Congress because the other side hates me so much, they're never going to support it. They'll drag their feet. We can't operate secretly in that regard. We can't do military operations with any kind of effectiveness if you're going to debate him for 2 months. And he's right. And when Noriega came out, that shattered that. And that'll never even get into the courts. Maduro's never going to get in. Okay? He'll be convicted in Brooklyn. You should go over and see him. He's right near your house. All right? And then he'll go to the penitentiary in Colorado. And that's what's going to happen. And there's not going to be any court hearing about Maduro. I don't even think the ICE agent's going to be prosecuted. Now, do you agree with me that there are 10 states in open rebellion to the United States government because they fail to obey the law? It's okay to protest the law. There's no problem with that. But when you say, and that's what Walls, Fry, all of these people are saying, I'm not going to obey the law that has been passed by Congress, not Trump. I'm not obeying it. You're in rebellion, are you not?
I think rebellion is a narrative that oversteps considerably. I'm old enough to remember when states' rights were a big talking point on the right, and now that's gone away, right? Like suddenly we don't care about states' rights and their ability to make decisions about stuff that now.
Depends on the issue. If you want,
you are basically making situational decisions, right? And honestly, previously, what you just said, you just basically said Trump doesn't want to take Maduro to Congress because he knows he won't get what he wants. I'm sorry, you don't get to pick and choose what the Constitution says.
You do if you have national security concerns behind you. Yes, you do.
But that's very subjective. And to say that there was a national security threat by Maduro, I think is hyperbole at best. I think it's absurd.
Tons of narcotics are coming in here.
But far less drugs from other places. Please let me finish. Look, the whole point of the Constitution is checks and balances. You can't simply say I'm going to avoid checks and balances if I know that a congressional check and balance is not going to give me what I want.
But you
and
can,
that perfectly illustrates my point.
You can if there's precedent about national security. After 9/11, all of that changed. All of it changed.
So herein lies the gray area of this dialogue, and I appreciate the chance to describe it. I think there's overreach, and I think a lot of people feel that there's overreach. Honestly, in hindsight, I care less about the Maduro extraction because he's clearly a bad guy. And, this is very personal for me because my nephew is on USS Ford. He's a naval intel officer, and he was very much a part of the whole Growler part. And I'm extremely proud of him, but I'm also concerned about him.
It's a good debate, but I live in the real world, and I know what's going to happen. And Trump is not going to lose any of these things at all because of the national security.
He's losing the polling battle. When it comes to ICE, only 28% of the people are sort of agreeing with the narrative that the ICE agent was justified in shooting her.
Well,
That's
now
very,
if
very
he has
low.
injuries, that polling is going to change. But even if it doesn't change, all right, Trump is basically saying this, and I'll give you the last word on it. My job, I was elected to protect the American people, and I'm going to do it. And I am not going to submit to some theoretical process when I believe I have the authority to take out people like Maduro, the Mullers, people who are threats to this country. And that's his mindset. And the only way you constrain it is the Supreme Court. That's the only way. Says no. And the courts, the federal court said no to guard in LA and other places, Oregon, all right? And Trump pulled them back. Last word.
I think you're being very generous. If I don't think a lot of people feel like mullahs in Iran pose a direct threat to their lives. I think
billions to terror groups? Billions to terror groups?
I'm telling you, I think geopolitically they are a huge threat and they should be extracted. And you and I agree largely on the foreign policy there. I'm talking about politically. I don't think a lot of people in Overland Park, Kansas, where I grew up, see that as a perfect threat. I also think that a lot of people want immigrants who are illegals extracted from our nation, but they don't want to see masked ICE agents invading homes without a search warrant. They don't want to see protesters shot in the face.
I'll see that point that ICE has to tighten it up a little bit and has to be more, give more of an explanation. All right, Colby, very good debate, very lively. I want everybody to read your column on media. Thanks for taking the time.